Okay, so you requested that I talk about a fatty liver, and more specifically in this case, I'm going to be talking about the non alcoholic fatty liver, which is also very common. It actually affects up to 25% of Americans, including children. So that's a quarter of the population, which is a huge number. And keep in mind that it often goes undetected. So if you've been diagnosed with it, consider yourself lucky because you now have awareness around the issue and you can do something about it. Okay? Especially, it goes undetected a lot because a non alcoholic fatty liver, that's going to be a mouthful every time I'm going to say it this time, but I'm going to try and do it right. But a non alcoholic fatty liver often has no symptoms. Although it may cause fatigue, jaundice, swelling in legs and the abdomen. It can also cause mental confusion, so you can kind of feel that brain fog a lot. If left untreated, it can cause more severe issues like liver swelling, or it can even contribute to liver cancer or liver failure. And as we know, these are more fatal consequences. Okay, so um, as we know, alcohol consumption is a leading cause of fatty liver, but in the case of a non-alcoholic fatty liver, it occurs in people who are overweight, obese, who have high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and even those who consume little or no alcohol. So just like the casual drinker, something that I would consider myself to be too. So the best way to go about this, how can you support your liver? How can you support your fatty liver? Diet. Adjusting your diet is the single most effective thing you can do to help reverse this condition if done right, and more likely if it's caught in the early stages, or you can help improve it just by making really simple adjustments to your diet, which is the really good news. So, contrary to popular belief, um, you know, as the advice that many doctors give, fat consumption does not cause a fatty liver and it's not harmful for those that have a fatty liver. Healthy fats are super important to consume for health, and they are one of the most important foods you can consume to support your weight loss journey as well. So if you're receiving, if you're watching this, if you're in my little corner of the internet, you are probably on a weight loss journey. And because you're watching this video, more specifically, you've been diagnosed or recently diagnosed with a fatty liver. So instead of reducing your fat consumption, which again is so important for us, and it's the single most helpful nutrient that you can eat to support your weight loss journey, the one food that you need to control most if you have a non-alcoholic fatty liver, and even if you want to lose weight successfully, the number one food you need to control is carbohydrates. And in this case, because we're talking specifically about a non-alcoholic fatty liver, fructose is the one ingredient in this case, because it's just a part of foods, is the thing that you need to control the most: fructose consumption. Okay, so the first ingredient to eliminate would be fructose. If there's one thing you want to do to support your liver along this journey, is eliminate fructose consumption or reduce it to really the bare minimum. So fructose is the sugar found in everything from high fructose corn syrup. It's even found in sugar and in fruit juice, okay, to agave syrup and honey. It's harmful when consumed in excess, which is exactly what most Americans do. And with Americans, I'm going to include like North America. I'm going to include us Canadians in that too. Although we don't have such a high rate of non-alcoholic fatty liver, it's still an issue. And definitely fructose overconsumption is an issue as well. So with fructose, unlike glucose, the other sugar that we know, glucose can be used by virtually every cell in our body. So glucose is stored as energy in our muscles. It's fuel for our brain, but fructose can only be metabolized by our liver, because your liver is the only organ in your body that has the transporter for fructose. Okay? And just like alcohol, fructose is metabolized directly into fat. And that's the source of the problem. Okay? Fructose does not give you cellular energy, which is what glucose does. Glucose, as I mentioned, it fuels our brain, and it's stored in our muscle because it fuels our muscle and our movement as well. Okay, so that's the big difference between those two little sugars. And that's why there's specific foods that need to be avoided, because they're really high in fructose. Okay, and that's why the first step is really to limit your fructose consumption. More specifically, limit it to under 15 grams a day, and that includes fruit. I know fruits are this healthy food, but in this case, because you have a fatty liver, fruits are not going to be supportive in this healing journey. It doesn't mean that you can't ever eat it again, but as long as you have a fatty liver, fruit is not going to be supportive of that. Okay? So when it comes to diet, it's important to know that ingested carbohydrates are more likely to directly contribute to your non-alcoholic fatty liver than dietary fat intake. That's the big lesson here. That's the thing that most people leave the doctor's office like, oh, I have to reduce my fat consumption, and we're not really informed that it's really the carbohydrates. So we also want to reduce our overall carbohydrate consumption, but more specifically, it's the fructose. Okay. The worst offender here is soda, but really any sugary drink increases your risk of a fatty liver. So even fruit juices, or the healthy morning orange juice, lemonade, fruit punch, anything along those lines are a major source of fructose in the American diet. And it's also found in many processed foods and even healthy sweeteners like agave and honey, and of course fruit or dates, etc., etc. Okay? And now just to I know that fruit contains many beneficial nutrients and antioxidants, but for someone who is obese, for someone who's overweight, or suffering from a non-alcoholic fatty liver, one has to be careful with eating fruits that have a substantial fructose content. So some fruits, such as lemons and limes, have a smaller or minimum really fructose content, and they're safe to eat. They're really beneficial for your body, so it's something that I would recommend that you could continue consuming. But other fruits, such actually some others that have a low fructose are grapefruit, kiwi fruit, berries. Okay, those have a relatively low fructose content, and they're really high in nutrients. However, fruit juices, again, dried fruit, and others that are really rich in fructose are pears, red apples, they're the sweetest apples, right? Plums. So things like that should be eaten relatively sparingly. Again, you want to consume no more than 15 grams of fructose a day. And I know that can be a big adjustment for people, but that's the one thing that you can do to really help support your liver in this occasion. And you know what? I'm going to give you a sneak peek into what I share with my clients in the Smarter Fat Loss System. I want you to understand that eating healthy does not equal fat loss. Okay? So just because a food is labeled as healthy does not mean it is healthy for your specific circumstances right now. So in this case, fruit is considered healthy because it's all natural, it has fiber, vitamins, antioxidants. But in this case, if you have a non-alcoholic fatty liver, it is not healthy for you, and it will not support you in this journey. It will just make things worse. In fact, the fructose content is what got you to this place to begin with. Okay? So unfortunately, doctors often fail to tell you this, but it's also not their fault because they're not trained in nutrition. That's not what their education is around. They're trained in giving prescriptions, they're trained in medication, and they know how to heal a broken arm. But when it comes to food, that's really not the strong point for doctors. And that's where nutritionists like myself come in. We fill in that gap that doctors are not able to fill in, right? So to recap, okay, this change in your diet, reducing your fructose content to a maximum of 15 grams a day, along with daily movement, even if it's just 30 minutes of walking, are the main things that will help your non-alcoholic fatty liver. In addition, I know everybody always loves supplements because they seem like the easier way out. There are some supplements that are helpful that can support, but again, if the dietary change of reducing carbohydrate and more specifically, even more reducing your fructose content, if that's not done, supplements won't do anything either. So they're a great addition to the dietary change and to your increased movement if it's something that you're not currently doing. So the two supplements that are really helpful in this case, there's a natural supplement called berberine, which has been found to reduce the buildup or the fat buildup in your liver, which may protect you against non-alcoholic fatty liver, so it can help prevent things from getting worse than they already are. And in addition, vitamin E may help relieve the majority of symptoms associated with a non-alcoholic fatty liver. Okay, that's kind of, or specifically in more severe cases, that's the swelling when your liver is already swollen. That's when vitamin E can be really helpful to reduce those symptoms. Okay, so I hope that this has been helpful for you, that it's been able to give you answers that you haven't found elsewhere. I'd be more than happy to continue the conversation. I'd love to support you nutritionally in this area as well. So obviously you might have more questions that you want to ask me, and feel free to reach out to me through Messenger, which is probably where you got this video from. Also feel free to schedule a clarity call with me, which is something that I offer to anybody that is interested in working with me but just wants more information, so that you can get clarity on what I do, and so that I can get clarity on what it is that you're looking for, so we can see if we're a good fit to work together, because I'd love to support you in this. I know how important the health of our liver is. I personally have been diagnosed with the liver disorder, so I also know how uncomfortable it can be when your liver is not functioning the way that it is intended to. Okay, so I look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the rest of your day.